All right. Welcome, everyone, to Buying Local. I'm your host, Mike Nelson from Five Towers Media. Joined today by Sara Kelly from the Joyful Support Movement. And we're going to be talking about all things about who she is and what the Joyful Support Movement is. And yeah, so Sara, kick us off. Who are you, Sara? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I like to push back and do sort of non-traditional, like who am I?
Yeah.
You know how people always start off with I'm a this, I'm a that, I do this. I like to throw out things like I live in upstate New York, but I'm originally from the Midwest. But I also lived on a boat for 2.5 years, which meant I lived all over. And let's see, I would rather spend more time outside than inside, but my work revolves around helping people manage their inside spaces.
Oh.
So I like being a set of contradictions, which is kind of fun. I say I'm equal parts practical and whimsy. So I like to be practical and efficient, but I also want to inject fun and levity in just about everything I do.
Okay. I have to ask about living on the boat. Was that
Yeah.
as a child? Was that recently? Like, at what point in your life did you live on a boat for over 2 years?
Yeah, so when I was in my 20s, I had my first job out of college, and it was a low-paying entry-level job, but I had health insurance and I had, my first car loan. I was paying off my college, and I just was looking at all these people around me who kept saying, "When I retire, I'm going to travel." And I
Mhm.
kept thinking, well, what if you don't make it to retirement for some reason? Or what if you retire and you're not healthy enough to travel? And all I did with my time off was travel. So I learned about a friend of a friend who worked on a cruise ship. And I just thought, if I don't do this now, I'm going to want to just travel for the rest of my life. So I left my job that I had and I sold everything except for my car. And then I got a job on a cruise ship. It was a domestically flagged cruise ship. So we were on the East Coast and the West Coast, and we did Central America and Canada.
Mhm.
And yeah, and then I just found there were two different ships that I bounced around, and then I took a personal cruise on their foreign ships, and I was in South America for a month. Um, yeah, and so after 2.5 years, my travel itch was fully scratched, and then I was like, I'm good. I'm good. So
Yeah. I like when you're on the cruise, like I don't know how this works, so I'm just curious, but like when
yeah,
you're working on a cruise ship, like do you basically work all the time or is it
yes.
like you work 8 hour shifts and then you're off?
Well, I mean, I would start off by saying every company is different in how they set it up. For the company I worked for, you can officially say you're on call 24/7. I mean,
Mhm.
if it is all hands, like it doesn't matter if you're supposed to be sleeping, nothing matters. You get up and out. They would give us one day off every 2 weeks.
Okay.
Um, and so you had that to look forward to, but you wouldn't always get that. And then we had breaks off depending on what your work schedule, like what your job requirements were. You would have breaks in the day to maybe get off. So if you were in port, you could get off for 2 hours, and I would go for a run and go to the coffee shop. So I got to see a lot, but yeah, it's not a 9 to 5. You
It's
have
not
to,
a 9 to 5, right, right.
yeah.
And it's like if you're working in the kitchen, let's just say as an example, I don't know what you did on the ship, but like if you're one of the kitchen crew, like you're just in the kitchen all day, every day, kind of all the time. Is that
Yes. So, yes, galley staff in the kitchen, in the galley. I started out as a server, which meant I was a stewardess. So I served food and I did housekeeping. So we'd bounce between the two. And then I would come back on and I worked as a deckhand for a while. So you're all over you're in every part of the ship for that. And then I also did work in the gallery. I did scullery. I washed dishes.
oh,
Yes, and that was always in the washing area. So, yeah, it just depended on what your job requirements were and where you were.
yeah.
Hmm.
Oh, well, thank you for letting me go down that little rabbit trail there. I just
Always.
as soon as you said that, I was like, ooh, I'm just curious of what that life looks like for people.
Yes.
But that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about joyful support movement.
Yes.
So why don't we just kind of start off by giving an overview as to what it is and what you guys are doing?
Yeah. So, at its core, joyful support is 3 steps. And these 3 steps are a tool to use to manage getting through life, to make life more approachable, easier, to just help yourself through the day. And at its core, the three steps are acknowledging your story, what's going on in your life, and then what's a joy that's going on. It can be completely unrelated to your story. They don't have to be connected. And then finding a step that you can take. And again, these doesn't have to be connected, but taking a step, whether it's physically taking a step and just going for a walk or deciding on a step you're going to take to help with your situation. And these are three steps that you can do by yourself or with others. But what my partner and I did was we created the three steps and then we created a whole virtual platform to help bring these steps to life. So we have three podcasts.
Mhm.
Each podcast focus on each step. And then we have courses that help with different aspects of the step. And they're tools that you can use if you need a little bit more guidance or support. And then we have an online village where you can come, and the tagline is just show up and give what you can and take what you need. So if you're in a position to give support, and this doesn't mean financial support. It doesn't mean saying you'll show up and help clean your neighbor's house. It just means if you can show up and hear somebody's story and just say, I see you. I see you. Like validate other people's experiences. It just kind of brings that connection and humanity back. I think we
Mhm.
used to get a lot of this. Some people get it with their families, which is great, but some people don't get this with their families. They don't have any place to turn and ask, "Hey, how often should I be washing my sheets?" Some
Mhm.
people don't know that, right? So we created this safe space where you can come and ask questions. Or if you're feeling overwhelmed, you can come and show up and talk about that, and there's no judgment and there's no shame. It's just that supportive space that we all deserve, but we
Mhm.
don't all have in our life.
Now, I know I kind of have the benefit of some of our other conversations to give me, kind of the inside baseball, so to speak, on JSM. But what for people that are hearing you talk about it, it sounds a little one part life hack, one part like emotional support. Um, can you kind of give me an idea or give our listeners an idea as far as who are the types of folks or the kinds of people that might get some benefit out of it, or what might be some indicators for someone listening that they might get some value out of what you guys are offering?
Yes. Well, at its core, everyone deserves support, but everyone is a very broad net, right? So we like to think, my business partner and I, do both happen to be busy working moms. And my business partner also has a chronic illness. So she's had to adapt to some new life experiences. So off the bat, her and I immediately connect with women who maybe have a lot on their plate, and they either feel ashamed that they can't handle it all. And I'm here to tell you, you don't have to handle it all. It's way too much. It's just way too much. But people who feel like there's so much to do, I don't know where to turn, I feel overwhelmed, I want to do things differently, but I don't even know how to start. Like,
Mhm.
where do the person who's asking, where do I show up and show that I'm vulnerable and show that I need help and know that I will be embraced in a safe space? So if somebody hears that description and they immediately crumple into tears because they're like, yes, that's what I'm missing, then that's our audience. That would be the person who would get the most out of our community.
Okay. So, with those people in mind, let's kind of start with the village, and then we'll talk about the courses, and then we'll kind of lead into the podcasts. So when we talk about the village specifically, how does the village help support those folks, those women that you're talking about? They're overwhelmed, they're looking for answers, looking for help, or maybe just looking for someone to talk to that is low risk, right? Someone that's not gonna bite back at them, or what? How does the village? How does it do what it does?
Yeah, so when I first envisioned the village, I was coming off of a place of when you show up in social media, and I mean, nothing wrong with social media. It's just sometimes when you show up and you share whatever's going on, whether it's positive news or frustrating news, sometimes you get people who are having a bad day or maybe a bad decade. I don't know. But sometimes they show up and, people lovingly call them the trolls.
Yes.
And that's fine. We all have bad days. I get it. But it's a real bummer when you show up and ask a genuine question or share some genuine good news, and somebody shows up and decides to just, pee in your Cheerios.
Yeah.
It's so when I first pictured the village, I pictured imagine if you could show up and meet amazing, like-minded people, but you put up this little safety wall that the trolls aren't going to climb over. And if they do, we have these safe rules in place, which is basically like, be kind, like, be cool, man. It's okay to have a bad day, but just don't spew it onto other people here, right? So there's some safety guidelines. So when the village came together, that was our vision, that you can have that safe space and show up. And I love to use the example of I went on, gosh, I don't know if I should say the name of which app it was, but I went on an app and I posted, "Hey, I keep trying to use my rice cooker, but it keeps overflowing and getting a mess onto the countertop. I used to do it in a pot, but I got the rice cooker because I thought it would be cleaner. What am I doing wrong?" I got a lot of great answers, and I learned so much about cooking rice that I didn't know. I didn't know. But I always remember this one person came on and said, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe you're allowed to be an adult. How have you not burned your kitchen down by now?" And I was like, man, I just didn't need that today, right? And like this is where we talk about with joyful support, the joy ripple. Like that person's ripple kind of caught me on a bad day. And then I take that negativity and I turn around to my family and I have this like, somebody totally slammed me for making a mess when I cook rice, you know? So it's that kind of stuff where like, what if you can show up and ask these questions and know that you're not going to get any guff from
Mhm.
anybody? So that's the primary point of the village is to have that safe space to show up. No shame, no judgment. And then it also serves as a platform, the three steps that I mentioned, that you can show up and share your three steps. Sometimes people just want to be heard.
Mhm.
Sometimes we just want somebody to see and validate our experience. So when you come in the village, you have the option of sharing your steps. And I do it all the time, and it feels so good. Somehow, just going out there and saying, "This is my story, this is what's happening, this is my joy, this is my step," it helps it so it doesn't get stuck inside of me. And I can just put it out there, and I know that the people reading it are seeing me and what I'm going through. So it serves for that. And then it also serves as where our courses live. So if somebody wanted to do one of our courses and they had questions or they just wanted to go through it with a cohort, we can do a guided cohort for the courses together.
And well, first of all, I just want to say absolutely on the social media stuff. It's terrible. Like people are asking legit, like just what you said, right? I see it so often where someone's just asking a legit question. They're looking for an answer and they're looking for people that maybe have life experience and that can give them an actual answer on it. And there's always people. It's just a dog pile, right? They just start, and then once one person does it, then another person's doing it, or they start a mini argument inside of the comments. You watch that happen where it's just two or three people going back and forth, and it's like, oh my god, I just had a question about a rice cooker, right? Wild to me. I know I've actually had to recently take myself off of most social media channels. I'm only on one right now, and I think I'm about to get off of that one for a while because it's just every single thing I read is just negative, toxic. It's not constructive. It's not helpful. It's not what I'm there for. And then you get sucked into it too. I find myself doing it where all of a sudden I'm like chiming in on a post or I like start to and I'm like, what am I doing? And back out of the post. Like I don't need to get involved in this conversation. But it
Yeah.
starts to suck you in. It's pretty wild.
And that to your point, that's what happened was it was I wanted to connect with people. I enjoyed these social media apps, but I realized more and more I was walking away feeling crappier than when I got on.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't have time for this. I do not have space in my life to give any of my emotional energy to feeling bad.
Yeah.
And so again, it's when I go into this village, think of it, this virtual village that's always in your pocket. It's with you 24/7. And I know when I log in, it's that positive feedback loop.
Hmm.
I know that the people inside of there are going to be kind to me and I'm going to be kind to them. And it just, I can feel relaxed when I go in there. And so honestly, I created what I wanted, and then we're just hoping to share it with other people.
Well, that's how it all happens, right? That's
Yeah.
you were looking for something and it wasn't out there, and so you created. That's market opportunity, right?
Yes. Yes.
Amazing. So you mentioned the courses before, and I didn't want to deviate from that because that was like a perfect segue into talking about the
Mhm.
courses. What are the like what types of courses are we talking about?
Well, I'm going to back up to my origin story a little bit, which is my background is in home management, which is helping people figure out ways to manage their homes easier so you have more time for the things you want to do. So for instance, if you haven't figured out a laundry system that works for you, like let's look at it and let's create a unique solution. So I was working with clients one-on-one and I realized I was saying a lot of the same things over and over. And I feel I'm sort of a natural teacher at heart. So I just had this natural like, oh, I can take a lot of these similar principles and put them into an online course, and that way there's no price barrier if somebody can't work with me or they can access it at their own time. And so my first step was 10 steps to meal planning freedom, which is all about if you're cooking for yourself or for a whole group of people and you are banging your head against the wall every day going, what am I making today? And you just it's draining your cup all the time. This is this like really short system to create a plan that will be easier for you in the long run. So that was my first course, and then I went to put it together, and visual visual stuff on the computer. it it's just not my strong suit. And so that was when I was connected with my business partner Lacey at the time, and that is what she went to college. One of her master's degree is in, I don't know, I always forget what it's called, but it's visual information. And she helped me put that first course together. And then my next course was all about home management principles. If nobody's ever taught you, which is fine, like we're all taught to drive a car, you have to take a test, right? But nobody teaches us how to manage a home,
Right.
right? So where are you going to learn? A lot of these magazines have these really high standards that you're like, I don't have time for that, Martha Stewart. No shame if you're Martha Stewart or that's what you do, but we don't all have that kind of bandwidth. So my next course was how do you manage your home? And I created these basic principles, and you take what works. It's not telling you that you have to do it a certain way. It's just this is what I end up telling my clients. And then Lacey helped me create that one. And then she got so excited about that course that she was like, okay, we have to do something more together. So we have a couple home management courses. The meal planning course is actually a free one that you can get access to. And then I have a whole dream list of more courses to do, but I'm sitting on my hands because we've we've got to do some other things before I just go off on creating more and more courses.
Yeah. It's interesting when you talk about home management because to be fair, I hadn't even considered that a thing, right? And I say that because like, we I I've grown up, right? We had home ec in school, right? Like I'm that old. Okay. So like when we
Yeah.
but it was like just a kind of glance at some of the stuff that you're talking about. And I think that I think people don't realize that there is just like running a business or doing anything that if you can develop systems and you can develop a process for how you're doing it, it makes it super efficient and can make it easier and not so soul sucking to have to do all the stuff that you have to do for your house every day, right? On top of everything else. Uh,
Well, and that's to your point, your home is where you go to restore yourself,
mhm.
to rest, to eat, to get clean clothes, to relax. But if you come into your home and you are frustrated about all of those things, then you're
Yeah.
not restoring yourself. And so by and we always say we do not care how your home looks, we care how your home feels. So if you
Mhm.
can come in and you can make food efficiently, if you can get your clean clothes, if you can relax the way you want to relax or host events or just grab your hiking gear to go out on a hike, if you can do all of that easier, then you have more in your own personal cup to then show up in the world as your best self, right?
Mhm.
So yeah, the whole home management thing, I'm really excited because I think my generation, it was still very much on the female shoulders. Like if you brought up anything that had to do with vacuuming or laundry or cooking, there was such a female connotation with that. But we're really getting to a gender neutral stage with that. I mean, come on. Like we all need to know how to do this stuff. Yeah, like, there is no gender involved in washing a dish. There just isn't. So
No.
I'm really excited to start talking about all this stuff in a very like neutral way that
Mhm.
applies to everyone. And my other course is home management for kids. How do you teach your kids this stuff in a way that doesn't leave you guys screaming at one another or somebody crying? How do you teach your kids to move out one day into a dorm or an apartment or a house or a ship, possibly a ship? How do you teach them to know how to do this stuff easily? And so I created a course that addresses that. And I'm super excited because so many parents just end up in fights with their kids and they say either, I'm just going to do it. So then your kid learns nothing, or you just keep yelling at your kid for not doing it right. When in reality, it's that they haven't been able to receive the information in a way that makes sense to them. So it's like a puzzle or a riddle, and I love figuring that out.
Yeah. Well, and I believe anyway that I read somewhere, probably like Dr. Spock's parenting or something along those lines. But where it was talking about giving kids structure, which essentially that's what a process or a system is, right? That's a set of rules on how to do something, a structure that's in place that essentially makes it as efficient as possible, right? And it's funny because as you're talking about it, I'm thinking about my youngest, although all my kids are slobs, but my youngest, who is 5, and I'm trying to work with him on like, cleaning up your room and not making a mess every single time you eat and all these different things. And I hadn't really thought about the fact that if I put some sort of structure in place around those things to help him understand like a system of some sort, not that it's going to be perfect or right, but be better than the chaos it is right now. It's fascinating. I think I'm gonna have to do that course, Sarah. That's
Absolutely. I absolutely love the course. We've gotten so much positive feedback, and I know for myself I would have benefited from it a lot. And so it's great to be able to, like I said before with the village, like I'm creating what I wish existed when I got married and started running my own home. Like these are the things I wish I knew. So
mm-hmm.
yeah, it feels really good to be able to provide something that is useful and beneficial to other people.
Why? And I know that you've told me this, but tell me again why it's called the Village.
Because we're all promised a village. And again, this is kind of aging me too, with that it takes a village. Yeah, it sure does. But where is it? We're
Mm-hmm.
all sort of promised this village. Um, and just the way our society is now, people move around more. We're not necessarily living next to our family of origin. We're way more mobile. And it's just that, like, well, where's your village? And it's just like, hey, here's this virtual village where you can ask whatever you need to ask, see, be seen, be validated. And so that's, yeah. So it's so funny. I'm like, wow, we never even really had a discussion. It was just always the village. And I guess that would be the reason.
Yeah. It's interesting. We're more connected than we've ever been. The population is as high as it's ever been. But like most people I talk to are looking for community. Like they're
Yes.
looking for a place to connect with. It's the wildest thing. We're so heavily connected, but at the same time, everyone is feeling so disconnected. And I think about a couple of my friends specifically that, in a conversation a couple years ago where it was like, we're just trying to find our community. And it's like we're trying to find the people that are into the same things that we can have conversations with. We like the same kind of stuff. And it's such a wild thing that there's more people, there's more ways to be connected, but we're so much more disconnected than we ever been. It's pretty wild.
Well, yeah, and it's almost there's too many options, right? Like I remember when I was young, there were two brands of ketchup. There was a store brand and then there was, Heinz. And then now there's 30 brands of ketchup just in your local grocery store. And it's almost paralysis by option. There's too many. And so I think to your point, I think connecting, you had school, you had church, you had your job, right? There were like very few things and there were very few activities. It felt like there weren't as many options. And now it's almost like diffuse, right? There's like so many choices. Um, but yes, that is again, we're trying to provide that safe space, especially for women who may not have time to go someplace and show up in person. Although I am going to have an in-person event in January, which I'm very excited about. But yeah, if you wanted that connection, to be a little honest and vulnerable, it is a safe place to show up and do that.
Yeah. Um, Tell me a little bit about the in-person thing that you've got coming up. Is that in the books official?
Well, the more I talk about it, the more it is. I have a place. I have a framework. Yes. So again, going back to the three steps of joyful support, it's creating a safe place where we can meet in person and show up and do the three steps together. And if you want to show up and just listen, but just be around like-minded people, or if you want to share, but it's just that safe place. And I liken it to AA for a very specific reason, which is 6 years ago, I lost my mom suddenly and not proud, but I was abusing alcohol at the time. It was really tough. And I kept thinking like, I don't know, like, do I have a drinking problem? Am I an alcoholic? What do I do? Where do I go? Who do I talk to? And so I kept researching AA meetings and I just had this thought of like, oh, wouldn't it just be so nice to know I could show up at this place as a stranger and I could just show up and I could just share what's going on. And like the culture of the environment is that they're going to listen to me and just hear me and not judge me. And I
Mhm.
just thought, oh my gosh, that's so beautiful. And I did get to a point where I realized I'm not an alcoholic. It was something I was able to get under control. But I liken it to that. It is this room you can show up and you can say whatever's going on and you're not going to be judged and you're going to be heard and you're just going to be seen and validated. And it's going to have, just like an AA meeting, it's going to have those safe rules of sharing, of, not giving unsolicited advice, keeping it safe within the room. So for me, again, going back to what would feel good to me, is if I could show up once a week and just know that I can sit still and just commune with other people and just listen. That's what the in-person event's going to be. And then we also have online ones where we can do it over Zoom for people who either can't leave their house or, don't live nearby to others to do this. So the in-person event will be in January. I will be having more information where people can sign up and get the details, and be held accountable for showing up. Um, so yeah, there will be more details coming in December. Yes, December.
In December. Okay,
Yes.
perfect. Well, stay tuned, everyone.
Yes.
Um, so I know we're going to talk about the podcast, but before we leave the courses, and I know we kind of jumped around a little bit there. Um, you've got the home management course,
Hmm.
the home management for kids.
Hmm.
Just those two courses, or did I miss another one, or are there more?
There are more, and we've been creating so much that I'm actually trying to remember what all is on the website right now. The ones that I've dreamed of making, the ones that I are actually out there and published. I'm gonna just own that I don't know how many courses are in the village right now
That's okay.
because
But it's not just those two, I guess, that is the.
no. So, and the reason I'm hesitating is because some of them are free. If you sign up to be a friend of the village, which it doesn't cost anything, we have free courses available. One is joy mapping, which has to do with if you're not sure that you're having any joy in your life, it walks you through how do you find these little moments of joy? And remember, joy isn't big. It's not winning the lottery or going to Disneyland.
Mhm.
Joy is little, like touching a tree or petting a dog or having a cup of tea. So there's a worksheet that helps you do that. And that's a free one. Yes, and then the two home management ones and the meal planning one, which the meal planning one is free if you sign up to be a friend.
Okay, perfect.
Mhm.
So let's talk about your podcast,
Yes.
which is,
Yes.
I mean, obviously we're on a podcast. I know we've talked about it. You love podcasting. I love talking to people and learning about who they are and what they're doing. And so tell us about, you have three podcasts. They line up with each one of the steps.
Yes.
So tell us what's the first step again is.
The first step is sharing your story. So when I met Lacey, she already had a podcast called Sharing the Middle. So when we met, she developed a chronic illness
Mhm.
in later in life. And so all of a sudden she was in this situation that was brand new to her. And one of the steps she did for herself to process it was to talk with other people who are in the middle of uncomfortable situations. And how do people feel about being in the middle of something? And so she already had her podcast. And then I'd always dreamed of having a podcast about home management, but just didn't have the tech skill set. And so when we met and I told her that, we started our podcast, which previously was called No Shame in the Home Game. But we realized that we want to help people take steps in all areas of their life, not just their home. So it's now No Shame in Our Game. And so we've just broadened the umbrella of what we talk about. And we do Q&A so people can submit questions. Harken back to my how do I use a rice cooker without making a mess? Like you can ask that question. You can ask anything that you want. It doesn't have to be related to home management, and we'll give you some great options. Again, we're never telling you what to do, but we're just giving suggestions and resources. And then we bring on experts in different areas to talk about. So I'm thinking back to some of our experts. We had one on who was a functional nutritionist, and we talked about how do you make healthy food if you have no idea where to start? And so we talked about the importance of healthy food and where to start and where to get more information. We've had a life coach on. We've had, gosh, now I'm forgetting all of our experts. My cup has overflowed with information.
Oh no, listen, I get it. I run it into it. We have our other podcast, Blue Collar Startup, and Derek, who's the visionary behind the whole podcast, and him and I host the show together. And he is like so good at like remembering people that came on the show, what episode they came on, like all the. And I'm just looking at him. I'm like, oh my god. I'm like, I don't know. I remember conversations. I'm like, but he can tell me all these details. I'm like, man, I don't know how you keep all that information in your brain, man. It's a lot. It's hard to keep it all straight.
Well, I used to be a lot better. But we're filming right before Thanksgiving, and I've got one foot into Thanksgiving land
Uh,
and one foot in work. So I think my brain's doing a little back and forth. But so we bring on experts, and we have some experts lined up to come on in the future. And again, it's talking about healthy steps that you can take in all areas of your life and making it approachable and doable. And so that's No Shame in Our Game. And then our third podcast, which I was actually just listening today, and it made me so happy because I'd actually forgotten most of what we talked about, but it's called Joy Moments.
mhm.
And so what we do is we share joy moments from people as a way of helping that joy ripple carry on. So if something makes you happy and then we share it and then it's like you get to hear it again and then somebody else hears it and it might make them happy. And
Mhm.
then so it's captivating, it's capturing that happy moment or something that brought you. And what we've learned is that joy, that term joy doesn't resonate with everybody. It's something that made you smile, something that just, felt good for a moment. Maybe it made you laugh, anything that just felt good. And what
Mhm.
was that joy? This one today that I listened to was all about pets. And my neighbor had horses show up in her yard one morning. And so So I guess it was all about different animals and different funny stories about animals.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, so that one's fun. It's just like a little 15-minute brightener for anybody's day to listen to other people's joy stories.
I'm curious because you said it, and I'm thinking in my head about the word joy, and you're saying about how it doesn't resonate with some people, so of course I'm like, well, why does the word joy not resonate with people? Do you have any insight into that? I'm just curious.
Yeah, well, I've learned a lot from Lacey because she was a communications major. And so there is just, there's connotations with how it was used growing up. There's a lot of reasons as to why. But yeah, we had her husband on as a guest, and she said, honey, can you share your joy moments? And he's like, I don't have any joy moments. And she goes, well, I know you do because every night at dinner as a family, we share something that was the bright spot on our day. She's like, and you just shared one last night. And he's like, oh, well, I wouldn't call that a joy moment. Right. So I think there is a little bit of joy to some people might seem like a really big word. It might seem bigger than how we're seeing it. They might see that as, oh, it's when do like, I don't know, an Easter egg hunt and then you fill your basket and then you got all the candy, like something like bigger, right?
Yeah,
Joyful, right?
yeah.
But we use joy in more of a smaller, just like what feels good, what fills your cup, you
Mm.
know? And like I'm a big bird nerd, so I often and Lacey is not a bird person, and so I'll often talk about birds that I see out my window. And she's like, "Man, that doesn't do anything for me, but I love that that makes you happy."
Mm.
And so it's just little things like that. And so we're part of our premise with Joyful Support Movement is like we're not trying to pretend that bad things don't happen. We fully embrace that crap happens every day, but we're just bringing joy to the table. Like, yes, your water heater maybe flooded your basement. Yep, that stuff happens. And let's also talk about some joy today that happened. So it's just we're trying to show both sides of the coins or just kind of balance those scales for people, which I think in our society we've gotten pretty heavy on leaning on the like what's going wrong side of things.
Yeah.
And we're not pretending nothing's going wrong. Like we're not sticking our heads in the sand. We want to bring joy into the conversation where we can.
Yeah. It's interesting you say that too, because I know, I've certainly said out of my mouth before that, like, if it wasn't for the challenges and the obstacles that I get to overcome on a daily basis, like, I don't know what I would do. I would be bored. And, but at the same, and I love overcoming things and getting past whether it's small things or big things. And I'm sure in some subconscious way, I create some of those for myself. But it's interesting because I think as a society on a whole, that's kind of where we're at, right? We're surrounded by social media and the negativity and the trolls and all that stuff. And so and then in work and in everywhere, you're just constantly surrounded by challenges and obstacles and hardship. And I know I do. And I was just listening to an audiobook yesterday that made me think about this a little deeper, but it's like you forget to have those moments where you take a moment of appreciation for even small things or big things in your life and how good you have it in so many ways. Like, yeah, I got this obstacle in front of me right now I'm trying to overcome, but I also have all these great things that I'm completely taking for granted and ignoring them and giving them a little attention, which is what it sounds like your joy moments are. I imagine it's a pretty healthy practice.
Well, and like you said, like you face obstacles every day, right? And I imagine you also have resources to help you get through those obstacles, whether it's friends you can call or family or, something to lean on.
Mm-hmm.
But we all have those days where our friends are busy or our friends have our own issues or our family is out of town. It's about the village and the movement. It's about what if you need somebody? What if you need some help to get through that challenge? And it's not about us solving the challenge for you, but it's where do you turn to? We call it self-help with community support. Like you're
Mm-hmm.
still going to help yourself. You're still going to solve your problem, but the community is there cheering you on, helping you navigate it, helping you figure out your resources. So you're not alone trying to figure it out.
Feeling like you're on an island all by yourself.
Yeah, we're trying to be the antithesis of that. Absolutely.
Right. Absolutely. Well, because that's what it can feel like sometimes, to your point, right? If you don't have that community, you don't have that, everybody's out of town and you're trying to tackle something by yourself, it feels like you're on an island by yourself sometimes. So,
Yeah, and one of the terms that we also used for the platform is peer-to-peer support,
mhm.
right? Like it's great to have experts, to have a therapist, to have, specialists, but let's be honest, you might have an appointment with them once a week.
Mhm.
What do you do in between? And like I said, if you have that go-to friend you always call, but they're having their own bad day with their own water heater, and that's where I found myself going back to when I lost my mom, I was going to see my therapist next week. And in my own life, I felt like I felt like I couldn't talk about my grief anymore with people around me, my circle. I felt like I kind of run that out with
Sure.
everyone, which is fine. I mean, absolutely. But it was like, okay, what's the in between? What's that backstop so I don't feel alone on an island,
Mhm.
So again, creating what I needed and then hoping that it helps others.
Yeah. Well, you have to assume, right? Like if you have a problem, other people have a similar problem.
Yes.
You can't be the only person that's dealing with this stuff. But, there's just way too many people on the planet to be the only one going through what we're going through at any given moment in time, which is what we tend to think. So,
Which is how No Shame in the Home Game started because I was doing home management. People would bring me in behind the door and show me what wasn't working, and there was always a tinge of shame
mm,
and like they were sharing a dirty secret. And I'm like, I have been in so many people's homes. You're not the only one struggling with this.
mhm,
Everyone's got something. Like if we all opened our doors at the same time, like we would all feel a sense of relief. Like, okay, we're all dealing with something.
mhm,
And if we stop trying to pretend, like it'll actually feel a lot better to just be honest and then talk with your neighbor about, oh my gosh, like I can't figure out how to get my kid to stop wiping peanut butter hands on the stairs. Like, let's just talk about it and problem solve together without the shame and negativity of maybe a troll who had a bad day.
amazing. So, if people want to join the village or they want to listen to a podcast or just learn more about everything that you guys are doing, how do they find you?
If they go to joyfulsupportmovement.com, everything is on there. There is a link to all of our podcasts. You can learn more about the village. You can easily contact myself or Lacey. So if anyone hearing this has more questions, Sarah at joyfulsupportmovement.com. I love talking to people. So, whatever your question is, go ahead and fill my inbox. But yeah, you can go to that website and get all the information. If you don't see it, just send me an email. And then, if you're interested in the in person event, check out the Buy Local in December, where I'll be
Yeah.
posting more information. And that in person event will be in January in Saratoga Springs.
Very nice. And they can also find an article that you just wrote in the current edition that will be in stores. Of course, by the time this comes out, it'll already be in stores. But you've got real quick, give us like a 30-second plug on the article that you just wrote.
Oh my gosh, it's so cathartic. It is about holiday easy. It is if holidays don't bring you that happy feeling that you want or desire, it's how do you recapture that? And so I walk through a tool called Good, Better, Best.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's another one of our courses that you can get. It's all about Good, Better, Best, which is just a tool for making decisions throughout the holidays so that you can check in with yourself and what do you have to give and how can you show up and still enjoy the holidays without ending up feeling like grumpy and just wanting to like throw all the decorations in the trash before the holidays have arrived.
It's needed. Well, I mean, listen, I love to cook for my family and for people. It's like an active service thing. And so, like, I love the holidays, the idea of being able to, cook for people and have that thing. But it can be really stressful, like, it's a lot of work.
And
So
so one of the tools that Lacey just made, which you can find on our website, it is about identifying in the holidays, what are you looking forward to? Like, what are you dreading? And then, like, kind of reconciling, like, okay, what can I do about this? Like, how do I do more of what I like? And then how do I kind of turn down that part that is draining me? And so it's about being intentional going into the holidays around those items.
absolutely
Yeah.
amazing. Well, I can't wait to read it, and I hope everybody else gets a chance to read it. So, and thank you so much, Sarah, for coming on the show. Oh, my son is
It's okay. My son just got home from school too.
he's creeping in behind me here, trying to see himself on camera. So I guess that's our cue to end the show, Sarah. Thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate the time and appreciate everything that you're delivering for us. So thank you.
Yes. Well, and thank you, Michael, for giving me this opportunity. I really appreciate you helping me get the word out. Yeah, so thank you for this opportunity.
You're welcome. Say hi. Thanks, Sarah. Have a great day. And happy
Thank you.
Thanksgiving, too, by the way.
Yes, you too.
Thank you.